The Chronicle of Akakor, when the gods came from space. The Akakor Chronicle is a collection of stories written by the Eureka Mongulala tribe living in the Amazon jungle of Brazil. It contains more than 15,000 years of history from the arrival of the civilized gods to the 1970s. So 15,000 years of history is a very long time. They were originally written in the language of the ancient masters, the quote-unquote gods, on a tree bark, and the stories were narrated orally by the prince of the tribe, Tanunkanara, to the German journalist Karl Brugger, who worked in Brazil, and recorded the entire story on cassettes, which he later turned into a book published in the year 1976. German journalist Karl Brugger was born in Munich. He studied modern history in his homeland and in Paris. He was an independent radio and television correspondent until 1974 and has since worked as a German television correspondent in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. Since 1974, Brugger has also been a correspondent for several radio and television stations in the Federal Republic of Germany. After completing his studies in modern history and sociology, he left for South America as a journalist. And there he learned about the Chronicles of Akakor. In 1972, he met Tanunkanara, the son of a leader in Manaus, and Manaus is located at the confluence of the Solimeos River and the Negro River in the first half of the Amazon. Tanunkanara is a leader of the Ugha, Mongulala, Daka, and Haisha tribes. Brugger, a conscientious but skeptical researcher, heard their truly incredible story. After confirming the cross-referencing these facts in 1976, he decided to publish the chronicle he had recorded under the title Die Chronik von Akakor, that is, the Akakor Chronicle. The Chronicle of Akakor. The chronology tells the millennial history of South America from the perspective of the Eureka Mongulala tribe, the region's oldest civilization, revealing many unknown facts that history and archaeology have not been able to explain with certainty, such as the construction of the Tiwanaku and Machu Picchu. Even the location of the Akakor town of the tribe has not been found due to the vast expanse of the Amazon jungle. In chronological order, the first thing the chronicle narrates is the arrival of the quote-unquote gods or the ancient masters in 13,000 BC, that's 15,000 years ago, from the time he chose the indigenous tribes in the area of the great river, that is the Amazon, to transmit civilization and end their savagery. It teaches them to cultivate the land, to respect the laws of nature and the laws they bequeathed to preserve the common good. They built large stone cities both on and below the surface, with temples for the worship of the sun, pyramids for spiritual purposes, and long tunnels that run through what is now Peru and Bolivia, Brazil, and even Venezuela. 3,000 years after their arrival, the gods returned to their world, a date that was set in the dating of the time accord to 0 year, corresponding to 10,481 BC. The history of the Eureka Mongulala tribe manages to move with a number of adversities it had to go through to survive for over 15,000 years, both in natural disasters, wars against other races, and against the white barbarians, the conquerors who came from Europe in the 15th century and almost succeeded in their extinction. If the tribe has remained unknown until today, it's due to their special features of its history and the complete isolation of its peoples whose history is mentioned. The latest discoveries from the systematic invasion of the Amazon confirm the account of leader Tanunkanara for his people, thus giving faith to something that can no longer be ignored. The Akakor Chronicles is divided into 4 parts and covers a period of just over 10,000 years of the life of the people of Mongulala. The Book of Jaguar, that deals with the colonization of the earth by the gods and the period until the Second World Catastrophe. The Eagle Book, covering the period between 6,000 and 11,000 according to their own calendar, and describes the arrival of the Goths. The Book of the Ant, which refers to the struggle against the Spanish and Portuguese colonialists after their arrival in Peru and Brazil. The Book of the Water Snake describes the arrival of 2,000 German soldiers in Akakor and their integration into the people of Uga Mongulala, and it also predicts a third major catastrophe. Descriptions from the Akakor Chronicle. Let's look at some passages taken from the Akakor Chronicle according to Tatun Kanara, the leader of the tribe. Quote, "In the beginning, everything was chaos. Man lived like an animal without reason and without knowledge, without laws and without cultivation in land, without clothing and without even covering his nakedness. He did not know the secrets of nature. He lived in groups of 2 or 3 when an accident brought them together in caves or in cracks in rocks. The men walked in all directions until the gods arrived. They brought the light." End quote. The gods, quote, "knew the course of the stars and the laws of nature. Indeed, they were familiar with the deeper laws of the universe. 130 families of the ancient fathers came to earth and brought the light. They brought man out of darkness into light. Before strangers arrived, men wandered like children who could not find their home and whose hearts did not know love. They gathered roots, bulbs, and fruits that were wild. They lived in caves and holes in the ground. They were challenging their neighbors about the hunted booty. But then the gods came and established a new order in the world. They taught the men to cultivate the land and to ride the animals. They are taught to knit fabric and build permanent homes for families and tribes. This is how the tribes were born. This was the beginning of light, of life, and of race. The gods called the people to gather. They discussed and held councils, and then they made decisions. They chose their servers to live with and to whom they passed on their knowledge. And the gods ruled from Akakor. They ruled over men and over the earth. They had ships faster than the birds. Their ships arrived at their destination without sails and without oars, both at night and during the day. They had magic stones to observe the farthest places, to see cities, rivers, hills, and lakes. Anything that happened on earth or in the sky was reflected in the stones. But most wonderful of all were the basements, and the gods gave them to their chosen servants as their last gift." End quote. Coincidentally, the Akakor Chronicle fits an image known in various mythologies around the world. The gods came from heaven, gave instructions to the first humans, left behind some mysterious devices, and disappeared again into heaven, into space. Now, the catastrophes described by Tanuka Nara, the leader of the tribe, can be related to even the smallest details mentioned in Immanuel Velikovsky's book, Worlds in Collision. As a historical and cultural document, the Akakor Chronicle gives a complete picture of the spiritual work of one of the oldest peoples on earth. Our knowledge of South America takes on new dimensions and perspectives through this book, and questions arise that point to new directions for research. The Akakor Chronicle reveals a dimension that will make even skeptics see that the unthinkable could be fantastically real. I've translated this for you from a Greek article. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support, and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.